afternoon, Americans and humans. This is your favorite alien on the afternoon of Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. And today's commentary, the afternoon commentary, is towards Russia and the world. To Russia, specifically to Vladimir Putin. President Putin, you're hammering Ukraine. And the Western world, or most of the, as they call it, civilized world, as they call themselves here on planet Earth, is sanctioning you to death, basically, squeezing you. Now, my question is, if you leave any people alive in Ukraine, how are you going to govern the people? You're going to have at least 100,000 troops in a country the size of Ukraine, which is the size of the American state of Texas or France, about the same size. So you'll need at least 100,000 troops to handle the subjugation and make it a puppet state of Russia. You tried that with Afghanistan with Najibullah, remember that? 1979 to 89, Mr. Putin? It didn't work, did it? You had to withdraw in 1989 because you didn't have the sustainability for it. It was eating you alive. Therefore, in 1989, Mr. Mikhail Gorbachev had no choice but to hightail it back to the bridge and a home. So how long is it going to take to you to hightail it back home after you finish Ukraine? You can't kill the whole 40 million unless you nuke them to death. And using the nuclear option in Ukraine is not good. So what are you going to do? Because the sanctions are going to get even more tighter on you. China is going to have to let you go because you're going to an extreme part that it doesn't want to take any part of it because it'll ruin its own plans itself. Mr. Xi will probably tell you, sorry boy, but I got to get off this train. Yeah. And to you, Western nations, and especially Mr. I know nothing and I see nothing and I sleep a lot, Biden, yoo-hoo! What are you going to do with a Russia that has a subjugated Ukraine? With or without Ukrainians? Mr. Putin would probably want to eliminate the Ukrainians to zero. You can't do that. That's impassable unless you nuke them to death. And then he's got to watch out for the nuclear fallout coming back to Russia or going back to the European NATO and the European Union. Yoo-hoo! Yeah. So my suggestion is that you go to the United Nations and you tell China, Mr. Xi personally, do what you can to get Mr. Putin out of Russia. He's lost. He knows it. Killing the Ukrainian people are not going to do anything. You can't sustain that country. You can't occupy it. It's costing too much money. You don't have the economy to handle it. And plus the people, would they be there as you're handling either a nuclear-infested country like Ukraine when you put your nuclear weapons and then they're getting the fallout back to Russia? And how about the European nations? Do you think they're going to be sitting there? They would want to nuke you to death too. If they're going to get nuked to death, might as well nuke you to death. Which in the turn, President Xi, that applies to you too, because the nuclear is going to go to you. The nuclear fallout eventually will fall in China. Yeah. So the whole world will be in chaos for something one stupid guy from Russia did. What do you say? This is your favorite alien with today's commentary for President Xi, Mr. Sleepy Joe, and the European nations. And especially Vladimir Putin. You lost, Mr. Putin. You know it. You should have eliminated Ukraine in 48 to 72 hours, and that's gone by the wards. So you have to hightail your tail back, just like Mr. Gorbachev did in 1989. Yoo-hoo! So like I said, this is your favorite alien. Good day.